Hello, everyone.
Happy Friday,
It's Andrew and William here from Allegory Gallery.
Andrew.
William.
So we're super excited to be able to do this presentation because
Why, Andrew?
I love books.
He does love books.
I started in the DIY jewelry making industry in books and magazines pretty early. And that's where I know a lot of people from.
Yeah, lots of people.
Well, a couple, maybe
Used to
five.
be really well connected.
Not anymore.
Now everyone's gone away.
Yeah, they had to get other jobs. So I thought it'd be nice to take a look at some of our recent additions to our personal library. And also, I was thinking that maybe we could do like a regular segment on different ways of capturing inspiration and places to find inspiration. So this is maybe one of them.
Part one.
Part one.
Chapter one.
Even though we talk about it like all the time.
We do.
So there was this on the floor, and I thought it was a cat poop at first.
That's like this. If you had cats and you saw this laying on the floor, you would probably immediately think it was a cat poop.
There was actually a clump of them. I guess there's a hole in the bag, but it's not. We're not touching cat poop. It's with our fingers. It's a ruby.
Star rubies.
A star ruby. Cynthia tried to warn me. She said, because she was picking this out on camera for me, and when she was in Tucson one time, and she's like, "I'm gonna get the ones that are polished."
Pull that light down a little bit because we're probably gonna want some extra light. Even if we flip it this way, there we go. Blinding us.
And then isn't that neat? It's a star ruby.
There's it's polished on just
that
the one tip.
And then the rest of it looks like cat poop. So yeah. So anyways, there must be a hole in the bag.
But we have a whole bag of these.
And then there were all these on the floor.
So if you want to wire wrap some rubies,
some cat poop rubies.
Cat poop rubies. We've got them for you.
I know that's going to be the new name. Instead of like pigeon blood ruby, it's going to be cat poop ruby.
There you go.
Nice. So anyway,
hey Lee, thanks for joining us out there on YouTube Landia.
Is it Lee or Leah?
How do you say it? Lee? Leah. I've said it both ways, I think, as I talk about it. Marianne is with us. Hello.
So one thing, while we wait for people kind of trickle in, got some news.
Andrew has news?
So, yes. So a part of my new thing.
Your new whole philosophy on life?
I don't know if it's that. Maybe it's on how to conduct business on my artist page.
Leah.
Leah.
Okay. Try to remember that.
It's like from the Bible. Anyways, there's a book called The Red Tent, and it had the main character's name is Leah. But anyway, so
your new philosophy on life
is not really a philosophy on life. It's so one of the things that our business, because we have a couple different business coaches, and we talk to people who do like social media strategies and things. And so one of the things that was recommended to me was to streamline my Instagram page and make it more cohesive. So before Instagram became like a business thing for me, I used it personally. And so I just put pictures of flowers and what I ate for dinner. And
I just kind of had this revelation not last night or the night before. I was looking through my old stories, like before you were trying to, do them to make them get numbers. And it was all personal stuff and some of our cats. And they're my favorite ones. Like I look through them and I'm like, why am I not doing this anymore? Because I'm trying to get numbers high on my personal Instagram. Like, I don't care. I just want to go back to making it stories of my kids, my fur babies.
Yeah. So and then that's the other thing is like there are pictures, like you can archive those posts, But then I'm like, I don't want to archive Babette
I
and
know.
Paolo. That's gonna make me get teary-eyed. But so anyways, I'm gonna start a personal Instagram soon. But so far, I've transitioned my current account to Andrew Thornton Artist instead of Andrew T. Thornton 100. Um, People, for one, were forgetting the middle initial, or they spelled my last name wrong, which probably will still happen anyway. And it's like thorn, like a thorn in your side.
A ton of thorns.
Correct. I used to get so like, no, I'm not a ton of thorns in my side. And then now I'm
Oh,
like,
that's how
yeah.
you do it.
It's like, yeah, pretty much. That's an apt description.
Michelle says, today I have money to spend and the subject is books.
I know.
Right?
Well, what do you want to spend money on? Because I'll throw these books on
we
the
have
floor.
cat poop rubies if you'd
Hey,
like
you
it.
want some cat poop rubies? Whoa, looking
Whoa.
nice. I think
They actually are nice if you see that, like, we're just holding them up, but like the polished ends are nice.
if you're at it like this, I wonder if they're corundum, so they're super hard. So
Yeah, you'd want to probably wire wrap it, like just have a. But then look like a cat poop. I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do with those. But we have them.
You put that in a medicine
Well, we
bag.
have thousands of things on the online store, Michelle. If you'd like to spend your money today.
What do you want? I'll dig it up.
Hello, Dale. Thanks for tuning in, and Susan, thank you.
It's been a while since I've seen Dale.
I know.
Yeah, if you need that ruby energy, you need to shine bright like a star. You put that in your little amulet bag. But anyway, so my Instagram's changing. I'm gonna post mostly the things I make. So it's still kind of personal in that regard. But I'm gonna save my cat pictures and food for my own personal.
I want to do that too, but mine is already personal. I think I just need to
start a business one.
Well, I have William Tries things, so I'll probably use that.
Yeah, because I think it makes sense. Like when you looked at my profile, like it makes sense to me. But when somebody who's looking for my jewelry or whatever, and they see like all these pictures of plants, and then they're like, "Well, he doesn't make jewelry; he's a gardener." And so I see what they mean. So I'm gonna test it out, and I've already done it. So it's too late now. They said you have 14 days to change it. If you
I think that's a good move for you.
Yeah.
Because it matches your Facebook page too.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get consistent.
Yeah.
And then we also got our domain name. Domain name for my new website. Because I don't have a website just for my work, my own personal
He needs
work.
a portfolio.
Yeah, because
your sister one.
I know, but we don't do it for me. It's like them cobblers. They don't have no shoes. And so I think it'll be a good thing because I'm starting to branch out into other fields, and it's good just to have a business card where people can actually find your work. Because my business,
about that?
I know. It's like, what?
He's like, what's your work? He hands him the Allegory Gallery card.
And they're
it's
like,
kind of here. Some of it's here.
There's a little of this and a little of that. So Dale says, making witch broom earrings. Wish I could have been there for the fun weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, for the Witches Bike Brigade. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I didn't get to go and hang out too much because we had a friend in. So I only got to test it a little bit, but we had fun.
Michelle says, I had to change my Instagram name so it fit my Facebook account before it had a nickname. Yeah. Hello, Teresa. Thank you for joining in.
So it's little things like that we've been working on. We just finished up with a GBE tech meeting. We were supposed to do trends, but we just talked about tech mostly. But that was really good. I mean, I shouldn't be saying what we've been doing in that, but I think those are useful, and we are going to use some of the things we learned from that from each other. So that's one thing. Like if you need it, I think one of the biggest points of inspiration for me is being able to dial in to a community of like-minded individuals.
I was just going to say, it's like they talk about you are the people you hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us, we have a habit of being isolated a lot of times. We isolate ourselves in a lot of ways, especially during the pandemic. And getting into this TGBE and some of these other places that you're in, we're talking with a lot of interesting people, and those ideas start to spark again,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. The brain starts firing.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, like, if we hadn't done certain things, how life would be now, because our life is so full right now with so many projects. One thing that we are going to be doing is we're going to be going to New York Jewelry Week. If you didn't see that already, my work is going to be shown in the Environ show at through the Alleghenies Metal Collective at Industry City in Sunset Park, which is a mouthful. But if you go to NewYorkJewelryWeek.com, you can see all of the shows that are happening at that week time. And hopefully we'll get to go out and see some of the other stuff. I know that we're going to be at the booth a lot of the time, but it'll be nice to be back in New York because that's where we met. And we're kind of justifying the trip as our anniversary trip, even though we're working.
Right. That's usually how it always is. Susie says, I can't figure out what's going on with my internet and stuff. Boy, am I having issues. Hope you can see me. We can see you, Susie. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Trey says, who do you have your domain name with? We use GoDaddy for all of our domain names generally.
Yeah, they're the most affordable, I think.
It's just who I started with when we very first started. They were one of the few ones that were out there, so we chose them. I don't think Google even had their domain name service yet, or if they did, it wasn't well known.
Boy, I hated their advertisements in the beginning.
GoDaddy.
It's like the sexy woman
It looked like the car calendars,
but like with like eating a cheesesteak.
Yeah.
And you're like,
what does this have to do with anything?
I'm here for beads.
But they've kept, we have lots and lots of domain names. Anytime we think of an idea, we generally grab up the domain name just in case.
Susan says, I hope you're able to do a few things like visiting the Strand. Yes, I used to go the Strand. The Strand was in between where I lived and where I went to class when I went to the School of Visual Arts. So we used to go to the Strand like every day. And if you've seen any of our videos from the cottage, maybe not recently, but like when we first started shooting videos there, you've maybe seen some of my book collection, and that's just some of my books because I love books, which is what we're doing today. We're going to talk about books. These are new acquisitions for us. So, and some of them are this thick. So obviously I have not read them yet because it's this thick and the stack is this thick. And I know sometimes with like picture books, you just flip through. But with some of this stuff, it's really good to kind of get a more in-depth read on them. I know like sometimes it's easy just to flip through and cherry pick what you're most interested in. But sometimes you need to work from the beginning to the end. I know with Cynthia's book, it's one of those things where you work through all the projects and you build those muscle memories. And when you get to the end, then it's no problem. But we would get emails sometimes and saying, oh, I tried to do the last project in the book and I couldn't do it and it was too hard. And then be like, well, did you do any of the other projects? And then be like, no. And then
you got to graduate, y'all.
Yeah, you got to
go through the grades.
You have to scale up your skill sets. So we've been working on working on our library. My goal in life is to have the most craft books of all.
He's already made the local bookstores, that's for sure.
Yeah, but that doesn't count because they have like one shelf of books now. Used to be it would be like a whole section, and then now with all the publishers out of business, there's like a shelf. So Susie says Google does have a domain name service. I just got screenroomstudio.com a work in progress.
Nice. Yeah, Google has one now. I don't know if they had one when we very first started back in 2011 or earlier when I forget when I first bought my first domain name.
I don't know.
I know we had it one for the other business I worked for a long time, the Roadster Factory. So Teresa says, thank you. Going to be starting a business website soon. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
we're gonna hopefully do some more like tips and tricks of where to go and what resources to use. One thing that I would recommend is like some quick takeaways for a website is have good lighting for your photography, take nice pictures, and what's another good takeaway? Make sure the sizes of pictures are right for your website. So if you try to upload these massive pictures, I mean, like one person, they uploaded these raw files and they're so slow to upload their website. I was like, I'm gonna go get a drink and come back.
Yeah, every single, pretty much almost every single product photo we upload, and we never upload them directly from even because we use iPhone cameras for most of our products. We don't even upload the iPhone camera size because they are now like 16 megabytes or so each. They're getting pretty big nowadays.
They're nice.
They are nice, but we use another app to crunch them down, and they don't lose any quality really. But we make them both size-wise smaller and pixel-wise smaller, and it cuts them down to like 400 kilobytes or something like that, 400 to 600 kilobytes each.
One of the other things I would recommend is make sure that while you're working on your site to make sure that it is mobile ready. And it may be obsolete of me saying this because nowadays probably they already automatically do that.
Depends who you go with.
Yeah. But depending on who you go with, like William said, they may only do it, they may not make it mobile ready or mobile friendly. And if you think about it, how often do you go to your desktop to look for something? Maybe you use your desktop more, but for me, I do most of my work, maybe 90% of my work on my phone. So
yeah, he does.
I know that I'm unusual in the sense that I use my phone a lot for business. Like I type out long posts and
like
stuff.
If you've ever seen his posts, every one of them is written on his phone. He does not sit at a computer. He does not even have an iPad that he uses. He uses everything on his phone. He has a big phone, but I couldn't do it. I don't know how he does it. I sit down at either an iPad or a bigger screen, my laptop or my desktop, when I have to write something long. But he sits on the couch typing away. I don't know how.
Who knows? The next evolution.
I like the keyboard.
I used to be so analog. Like I'm so analog in some ways. Like I still have a paper sketchbook or idea book, and I do so many things like so analog, and it drives some crazy because he's like, why don't you do that?
Put it in the calendar.
Do this on this. I was like, well,
Apple's coming out with like a drawing board app that's going to be infinite, so you can zoom like you were doing your how to do a collection. You were doing all the brain mapping. They're going to have a whiteboard, but you can zoom in and zoom in and zoom in like infinitely, and you can collaborate on it. I'm excited.
That sounds like
I'm going to make you do it.
That seems like for people who do like PhDs in astrophysics.
It'd be good for anybody. You can just get on and collaborate with each other in real time.
Does it cost money?
No, it's going to be free.
Okay,
I think.
Well, maybe
might have to get you an iPad.
It. What? I can't use my
I don't think
iPad
you can use your phone.
from 12 years ago. I won in a photography contest.
Yeah, Andrew took a picture and won an iPad, and I think it was a Gen 3, Gen 2 or Gen 3 iPad.
But it drove him crazy because he would come home from work and he was like, "Did you open your iPad?" I was like,
I had an older iPad, and his brand new one that he won, didn't have to pay for, is sitting in a box, still wrapped in its film.
And I was like, I'm not emotionally ready to open it yet.
For months.
And he's like, by the time the new one come out, this is gonna be old before you open it. And I was like, well, maybe. And then
And then you use that thing for a long time.
I still use it
I
every
haven't seen
once
you
in a
use it.
while. Every
Is
once in a
that this
while.
cottage now?
I don't know where it is actually. It's
Somebody
in a
out there,
dead
Facebook
end.
user said, I have to cross my fingers every time I use my computer and printer for my art process.
Yeah, that can be tricksy.
Susie says, Andrew, a cell phone can do everything a desktop can do. It's even easier sometimes. I don't have a desktop, but I do have a Chromebook. Yeah, it's not so much the format. It's when I'm doing a long type, I like a keyboard. I'm either going to write it out by hand, which you can do now, or an actual. I can't do this for more than maybe a few paragraphs. He writes novels like in his
Maybe
posts
I will.
on his phone. It's crazy. Leah says free is good for me.
Well, the one thing that I do like to do on the desktop is I like to edit photos on a desktop. And one of the reasons why I like to edit photos on a desktop is because it's just bigger and I can zoom in, I feel like, and still have that peripheral information. Um, like Cynthia and Azalea, they go on the iPad and they just do Procreate and
Yeah, they
stuff.
do
And
beautiful things on the. I wish I could draw and paint because I would use those too.
you can do it. It just takes
It does
practice.
take practice.
Um,
I don't practice. I'm bad with
um,
that. Sandra says, do they make websites that aren't mobile friendly? Past history website designer. You would be surprised. And website or
mhm.
mobile friendly, as you probably know, Sandra, is different than just being able to use on a mobile device.
It's optimized
Google has
for.
special specifications that whether it's optimized or not.
Yeah, I went on one because my friend Amelia, she passed away in New York. Of course, we're planning to go to New York, so of course I'm like, let's
Thinking
bring
of
up
all the
all the
people.
trauma, all the people who I knew who died in New York. And so she was, unfortunately, she was 24 and was struck by a car while she was riding her bike. And the memorial they put up for the accident, it's called a ghost bike, where they paint the bike white, and people will come and bring flowers and stuff. So whenever I'm in New York, I try to go and clean it up and leave something. And so I went on the ghost bike website, but it's like in Flash, and it's like
Old.
this is like 2009. Like I'm in the time vortex. So unfortunately, they moved the bike, but nobody said where they moved it. So
Oh.
I'll
Sandra,
just go staple some flowers to their
to the
tree.
tree. Sandra says, use notes, speak into your phone, edit, copy to Facebook. Andrew, he does not do dictation.
No,
He doesn't like that.
no, I do. My writing process is a two-way thing. So I write it out, and then I will speak it. And if it sounds right when I speak it, then I'll keep it. But if it doesn't sound right, then I'll go back to the grammar and flip it. And sometimes I do, and this is about writing, this is not about anything else, but I like to do long sentences intermixed with short sentences. And the short sentences are almost like a punctuation in my mind. So, like, I will actually make these super run, long, convoluted sentences and then pow, pop them with a shorty.
That's from your
Um,
newspaper days, probably.
More from, so there used to be a website on the internet, talk about olden times, called Cocaine Kiss, which I don't know who came up with that idea, but it was like all the emo kids who were crying on into their AOL accounts, and they would upload poetry. And so I used to think, I was like, I'm gonna be the next Anne Rice. And so that's where that's
You wrote
from.
a lot.
Yeah, I
Bonnie
used to
says,
write a
my
lot.
favorite is to use my art journal and use old papers and books and tear up stuff. Yes,
Me do
that's
that
good too.
too.
So he says, my Chromebook syncs with my cell phone, so they mirror each other. That's good.
That's one of the nice things about our phones now. They sync up with. At first, I was like, "Oh no, the government's watching," but then I was like, "Oh, I don't care. What's I gonna do? Look at my bead pictures?
Right.
Oh, did you enjoy that picture of my cat?" Um, so now our desktop syncs up with our
Leah
phones.
says, my Chromebook has a touch screen. I use it as a tablet. That's good. That's helpful, I think. Apple won't do that. They have said they will never make a laptop that's a touch screen, so we gotta buy a separate tablet.
What?
I know. Teresa says, my daughter's a graphic designer. She uses Procreate. Procreate's fun. Bonnie says, I hate Siri. I think Siri is good. I think my dictation on Siri, because I use dictation quite a bit, is pretty good. But as far as what Siri actually knows, don't listen to me, Siri. Siri doesn't know as much as the other ones. And Siri can't give you as... See?
It's
Listening on my watch. But
we're surrounded,
especially by like Google. Google's gives you good information. Siri is going to send it to your phone. I found some results. They're on your phone, and then they're never on your phone.
I know. It's like, whose phone?
Whose phone never gave me results on my phone.
Because they're going to be getting this taco recipe.
So I will say Siri is, more secure possibly than the other ones because they're encrypted better. Apple makes sure of that. And the dictation does work, I think, really well for the most part. I mean, all dictation is a little off. But
I feel like...
But Siri's not going to go making calls to your neighborhood restaurant and booking you a table like Google is working on doing.
Oh, really?
They actually, I don't know if it's done yet. That
sounds handy.
It was so real that the people didn't know they were talking to a computer, and people got freaked out when they debuted it. So they pulled back on it. And I don't know if they've actually ever released it or not. But you could actually ask your assistant on Google to make a reservation at my favorite Chinese restaurant, and it would call for you. It would answer them just like...
Well, I'm not going to say the name because they're listening, but the one that has the S starts the name sasses me back. I was like...
You do get sassed.
I know. They're like, I already told you. I was like... I didn't ask for you to tell me how many times you told me.
He can't even get through a day without Siri sassing him.
You're going to get me in trouble when the empire rises up, and they're going to be like, who's first on the list? That little brown bald one. And
Susie says, my brother used to work for NSA. Yep, they are listening.
Well, enjoy.
I wouldn't doubt it. I know. What are you going to get from us?
Oh, this is going to be some Martha Stewart. Be like, what did Martha Stewart
Bonnie
do
does
in
the Google search.
We have all of them. And the reason why is because we attended this conference in Reno, Nevada, and it had some of the industry leaders in small business and the people who developed the technology for, for email lists. When that wasn't a thing, they made email lists, and they started Entrepreneur Magazine before people could even spell entrepreneur. And they were like, wow, the new thing is voice assistants. Mm-hmm. And sometimes your AI are the ones who are going to rank you in the new search engine. And I don't know how true that is now. I do know that we were ranked lower in our... because which one feeds in? Is it Google that feeds into Yelp, or is it Alexa?
I don't think any of them feed in, but they use some of that data.
Well, one of them, like Yelp or whatever. What's the other one? TripAdvisor. There's another one. There's one of those that they use the voice, the Google one.
Yeah, so, one of them references, one of the voice people reference more other sites, but they're getting away from that now because no one wants to be reliant on another website. Mm-hmm. But it used to be, I think it used to be that Alexa referenced Yelp a lot. Mm-hmm. And so our reviews are good on Yelp, but every time somebody writes us a review on Yelp, they put it in the hidden reviews because they think they weren't actually there or something. So it makes me crazy.
But we were ranked lower than somebody else that had just started their business, and I was like, how come they're ranked higher than us? And they were using these voice assistants, I think. So we just went through and just asked what our hours were at Allegory Gallery, like 100 times.
Yep. What's the nearest bead? What's the nearest bead store? What's the nearest bead store?
Maybe like 10 times, not like 100 times.
Anyway.
So they're like, I thought we were going to talk about books.
I know. If you have questions with online stuff, if you're all starting a website or working on something like that, and we can help you, let us know. We don't have tons of time.
They already know that.
We don't have tons of time, but if you have simple questions that we can address, we're happy to help. We've helped a lot of people start their own businesses.
Yeah, we are happy to do it,
including
because
filing like state paperwork here. If you're in Pennsylvania, we've done that a lot, helping people file it, figure out what they need to do, claiming their legal names.
yeah, we're
Stuff.
happy to help. Bonnie said about the T word.
T word.
I'm not
You're
gonna
just trying
say
to get
it
Andrew
because-
on a roll.
Yeah, y'all like it when I say the poop hole. I realize that people get just so tickled, and William hates it.
I don't hate it. I just think we have other things we can talk about.
He told me, I got lectured on the drive home from this party. He said, "Do you know what they are going to call us? Because every time you open your mouth, you're talking about poop."
He does talk, even in person at galas.
Wow. They asked me what I was up to, and I was up to my eyeballs in trying to figure out what the best solution was. So I told them, and then they got that panic look. They actually flagged somebody, secret hand gestured somebody to rescue them from our conversation.
They did.
But you know what? That person came back to me and asked about it. So I was like, I must have left an impression.
So that's what we're remembered for. Not beads, not jewelry, not artwork, not crafting. Poop. We're known for poop.
The poop hole.
The poop hole.
And not necessarily like, not, if you're new, when I say poop hole, I'm not talking about like sphincter. I'm talking about an outhouse. So where there's a hole in the earth where you're supposed to use the bathroom.
Sandra says, I do have a question regarding collections in Shopify. Do you know if you can have a main collection and a sub collection underneath? I don't believe so. We've never done it, and I think you can only have one collection. I don't think you can do sub collections. I've never done it. I'll say that.
One thing you can do is if you have multiple collections, you can cross-reference. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but like sometimes one of our collections will be so big that it's hard to find a specific thing. Like our inspiration kits are like, there's over 100 now. So there's a lot on there. So we'll have smaller subsections that are separate collections.
Yeah, like you can't have kits and then below kits break it down into animal kits and you know, like Halloween kits. It has to be a separate collection.
But we'll have like a TGBE kit section.
What you can do, I mean, you're probably using the keywords, but you load up the keywords and then people can search by anything, or you can create a collection via keywords. That's what I always do. That's how I create my collections, actually, is so I can add a keyword to something and it automatically populates in that collection. So if you do have a cat collection, kits, cat kits, dog kits, animal kits, you can have just the word kit and it would populate all of them, or you can have like cat and it'll know to go into the cat collection. But I work collections through keywords instead of trying to work them by just adding things manually to collections.
You skipped over the comment that praised me.
What?
That Facebook user.
Oh.
It says, Andrew, you are just straightforward. It's good for people. You know, some people would not agree. But one of the things that I've been working on is cutting through a lot of the BS and going straight to the thing. And I don't mean this to be in a hurtful way. I feel like establishing boundaries and being open and honest about those boundaries is a good and helpful way to minimize friction. It may seem bad at first because we're trained to kind of dance around subjects, but I feel like that can be almost worse than just being like, hey, that's not cool, don't do it.
Right.
And
he's good at being straightforward.
Some people call me combative. There's 4 kids in my family. There's me and Cynthia, which we're the aggressive ones, and then Dwayne and Sheila, which are the flight, or if it's fight or flight, they're definitely flight. Like if it's up to Sheila, she would go to another country
and halves.
and Dwayne has. He's in South Korea right now.
Is he?
I was like, how do you do that? But anyway, so and then me and Cynthia are like, all right, let me tell you about it. And then
Let
so
me tell
apparently
ya.
we get bad reputation, but it's not meant to be like I'm not trying to be hurtful.
Right.
It's so anyway, so let's see. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes just be quiet. Michelle says, do you have any of the crystal gold bead mixture bags
That's
left?
what I was just looking. That's Winter Garden, and Winter Garden is completely sold out, both luxury bead blends and the kits.
Oh, sorry. I might try to make some more because that kit, oddly enough, sold out. And I shouldn't say oddly enough because that's the goal, is to sell out, I guess. And we used to sell out within like 5 minutes. But lately our kits haven't been selling very well. So
we've been making fewer and fewer, and they still haven't been selling out.
I
This
know.
one we
One
could have
of them
made.
I made 4 of, and it didn't sell out. And I was like, this must be the humblest bead combination ever.
But this one you could have made probably 20 more, and people were still asking for it.
So I think I'm gonna do a double challenge.
What?
So I'll make another kit, and it will be similar but different.
Okay.
Because I want people who, if they got the first kit, not to be like, ooh, he just gonna repackage the old
Winter
stuff.
Garden and Winter Jardin.
Oh no. Javier. What is it? Javier? HIV? Javier? Javier?
Jardin?
How do you say winter?
Hiver.
Javier.
L'hiver. The Jardin d'hiver.
They'd be like, ooh.
I'll get that one.
Frenchy.
Susan says, is that going to be a new domain name? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, poop hole?
Poop hole domain name?
I think that one's taken.
Michelle asks, do you need a business license to sell online? There are different things that happen in different states. So you have to know what state you're in. In the state of Pennsylvania, if you are selling more than $600 a year, you are supposed to have a sales tax license. So after $600 in sales a year, you have to start collecting and remit sales tax, and you do need a business license to get a sales tax license.
It used to be you didn't have to collect sales tax, but within the past couple of years,
you always had to. You just don't have to accept it for other states unless you do what's called nexus of business in those states. So we don't do enough sales. Usually each state itself, the nexus starts at around $100,000, or there are the number of orders that you ship to that state. So if you sell more than $100,000, say in Texas, then you may have to collect sales tax in Texas.
Wow, wouldn't that be an interesting problem to have?
I know, right?
One of our friends was not complaining about it, but they were like, oh, the nexus. And I was like,
yeah, it's either that or you have to ship like 200 or 300 orders to that state.
No, that's not as bad.
That's not as bad, but we don't get anywhere near that. So we worry about Pennsylvania. We're in Pennsylvania. We sell over $600 a year, so we have to collect sales tax. So you do need a license. Now, as far as getting a business in Pennsylvania, again, that's all I can speak for, is if you're using your own name. If Andrew Thornton was the name of our bead shop, he could use his own name without having to do anything else. But if you want to, what they call in PA a fictitious name, which is Allegory Gallery, it's actually me doing business as DBA Allegory Gallery. So you need to file for a fictitious license, and then you can put your business licenses and tax licenses in that business name.
And you have to put in a business paper, you have to put a little advertisement.
Yeah, when you start your business, you have to do an ad or a little blurb in the paper saying that you have started a business in that area.
That means that anybody who wants to fight you can fight you.
Right. Susie says, by the way, I received my winter garden kit today. I love it. Thank you.
I've seen a couple people get it so far. Barb is really trying to be good about. I'm the holdup usually because I'm like, no, I want to put something nice in there. And then Barb is like,
he does do that. Then you got to make little scrap notes of paper. I know, wait for Andrew to give us
there's all this like pile of notes.
But I do it to her too, so I can't say much. Allegory Gallery, or Facebook user says the Allegory Gallery website is very easy to search. Thanks. We do, like, I try and put as many tags as I can.
You can even, if you're stumped about what to put as a keyword, there are actually keyword generators if you want to use those.
Yeah, those are more for
website,
SEO.
but you can still use that
But
for
like
your
if it's a
topics and
charm,
tags.
which could be a pendant, you get pendant and charm in my keywords. If it's a cat, it's a cat. If it's a type of cat that I know, you put the type of cat that you know. You put an animal. Like I try to make it so that, like, because we can't possibly put everything into the collections. Like I can't have a cat. I could have a cat collection,
We could.
but who's going to search the cat collection? Maybe a lot of people. But if you just type cat, you'll see all the cats. So we try and make sure we use keywords a lot. So thank you. I'm glad to know it's working.
Facebook user says, Facebook user is Ann Schroeder. I will have to relink to StreamYard. I find you very refreshing.
Good.
Oh, you know, the thing that is sometimes if you're on a different group, you may have to link from that group. So I'm guessing you're in like the design challenge group, or what's the other one?
We have a lot of groups linked to the. Oh, we're going on now?
Yeah.
Just the design challenge group.
So you're probably watching in the design challenge group, because sometimes I've noticed this also, because I get this where when I search or go in to watch the videos and comment along, because I don't always go on camera, the groups get pushed before our page, even though I have notifications set for our page. So then I have to purposely go into our page.
Yeah.
He said, "Did I hear
Hello.
cats?"
Yeah, my buddy. Hi, bud. Sandra says, okay, this is the winter collection, so I manually added them. Yeah, I started by manually adding in a lot of collections, and then I quickly found that, sometimes, like we do a TGBE collection, so the TGBE Fall Fest 2022, for example. So in the background, my code for that, my keyword is TGBE FF2022. And I put that to populate those things into the TGBE collection. But those things are also just regular kits as well, or pendants. So I also put them in kits and pendants in the keyword. And then later, if I want to, I can take out the TGBE 2022 and that collection goes away. So I manually putting them in, you have to manually move them if they're useful for something else. So like if you wanted to build a collection, say, of rubies, things that have rubies in them, you would have to manually also put them in rubies. But if you tag them with those keywords, they'll just go to those sections automatically. So that's why I stopped manually doing them and started using keywords. Leah says, can't sugarcoat BS. It still smells bad, right?
You can put perfume. I've noticed that there's certain things that will diffuse the smell of poop, but anyway.
Michelle says there's a selling license and a business license. In Pennsylvania,
she's in California.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's different. In Pennsylvania, we have a sales tax license that you need to do business in the state of Pennsylvania. And if you are a fake name, you need to have your fictitious business license. So those are the two we have.
One thing that I would recommend, which may be useful to you, is look up your local SCORE branch.
It's SCORE, SCORE.
.org, or SCORE mentors. And they have people who, there's chapters all over the country. It's backed by the SBA, which is the Small Business Association. They've been in operation for over 50 years.
Yeah, it's often a lot of people who have done well, either CEOs, CFOs, people who are retired who are big in business, and they help people starting out and they give them advice.
I wish we would have done that.
I know, from the very beginning.
Because we were like, how we do this? And then we do it, and then be like, oh, we picked the wrong way. Yeah. And so a lot of what we learned from small business at first was trial and error. And then we were like, oh, guess what? There's people who actually help other people how to run a business.
Right.
And, you have to take things with a grain of salt, of course.
You still have to do it your way sometimes.
And also, sometimes people don't get along, which I didn't, like I'm always like, I'm going to see the best in people. Sometimes people don't see that, they don't have the, what you call the vice versa. And then they're like, oh, he's a nasty piece of work. And then so I don't always get along with the business coaches. So anyways, that's another story for another day.
Let's see. Marion says sold out because it's such a gorgeous kit. Bonnie says hard to know if it's the beads or the way you titled the kit. Michelle says thank you. Lori, I'm always laughing along with William and Andrew's dry humor. Love watching you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Oh, hey, speaking of Andrew putting more stuff in boxes, is there any update on the mystery boxes?
They're still working. I'm almost finished.
That's one of those things that it's our fault that it's lagging behind.
It's my fault.
Well, not just your fault.
Yeah, I stayed up for 2 days straight packing. I still didn't finish packing.
They take a lot. People don't realize, I think.
Well, I want them to be good, and then I get this thing where in my mind,
the longer it takes,
the more
he has to stuff in there.
I know, because then I'm like, okay, well, since they've been waiting, I'm going to add this extra little goodie, and this extra goodie takes all day to pack. And so, but they should be going out within the next couple days. It was supposed to go out last week, but then we had some festival or something.
It's always something.
And then,
but they'll get out. They'll get out. We're working on them. He's working on them.
Almost done. But here's the thing. You wait a little bit longer and you get it real good, or you get it fast, and then people are
like... We'd rather send you all good stuff, extra good stuff.
Yeah. Teresa says, I sent 2 emails to you. One of the emails was wanted to purchase the thread that Andrew used on Raven Pendant.
What did you use on the Raven Pendant?
I use a thermally bonded thread. So
we don't sell that, do we?
We have some in the back room.
What do you have? What is it? Ceylon? Eslon?
No, it's Fireline.
Oh, Fireline. We only have it in bright green, I believe.
No, I ordered it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's in the back in the box.
Oh,
on the top shelf to the left.
Okay, so apparently we have that, Teresa. I'm glad you mentioned it here, because if I just saw that email and replied, I'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
Andrew knows where it's specially hidden. So
it's not hidden. We got an order. They just put it in the back.
Hidden.
Eventually,
that's called hidden to me.
We started doing the back, and then you can see that Mr. Barnaby must have gotten into something because my eyes have instantly turned red.
He was out digging in the grasses.
Perfect. I didn't take my allergy pill today.
There you go.
So as I start to congeal in my face,
you better turn the camera around. Start looking at some books.
Yeah. Score branch. Yeah. So go and find Score. Sometimes your mentors will not be the right fit. And if they are not the right fit, it is 100% okay to request a different one.
Yeah.
Because one person where we won this competition, and there was, how many of us? 100 of us that won.
One for each state plus a few.
And so
2 for each state plus a few.
So some of them were like, well, my mentor was a piece of poo-poo. And then I was like, did you ask for a different one? And they're like, no. And then like, why would I ask for a new one? And there's like, well,
because everyone's different.
Correct. So also,
but Andrew's better at that. Like I have a hard time telling someone you're not doing well for me. I need someone else. Andrew's like, I will tell them.
Well, I'm like this, maybe you're really good. Like, so for example, and I don't mean to call her out our former mentor through there, but she had a background in medical devices and selling. She made a lot of money selling medical devices. No retail experience. So I was like, I like, you're super nice. I like you, but we need somebody who actually has retail experience. And she was like, oh, cool. And then so she just forwarded us to somebody who did, which was actually really good because
no one wants to waste their time. That's what it comes down to. Like, if they're not being helpful, I think it's best for them too to be like, yeah, let me find you someone else.
That's like our videos. Like, if you don't like us, I'm not gonna be like, you gotta watch us. William was like, don't tell people to turn us off.
I know.
The thing is, though, is that if we're not helpful to you, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, and like, oh.
I don't think anybody's going to be watching us just so we don't feel uncomfortable.
Or so they feel uncomfortable, like they're like, I want to learn how to do this beading stuff, but only these gays teach it. So
I don't think there's anything that we only teach. So
yeah, I know. But as a hypothetical, if you're like, how do they call it, sadomasochist? He's like,
that's a bigger problem than us.
Let's look at the book.
Let's look at the books.
Well, I did find out that this woman, she makes a good living making these people read feminist literature to her, and I was like, and then another one,
And they're like
she's like,
she makes anti-feminists read feminist literature to her.
and by black female about black women authors too, and then they're like have shame or something, and then she's like, I paid my bills this month. Another one in San Francisco, she's how is it, 67 years old, and what is this? What's that?
That's
Somebody
just
requesting?
no. That's just switching into personal mode
Oh, because I was
or
like,
business mode.
is somebody requesting? Because I don't know if I want to play that game. No, so she's 67 years old. She makes people clean her house and she like yells at them like they were bad kids.
These are like dominatrix people.
I know. And I was like, I could
He's
do
like,
that.
I could do that. Andrew's gonna have a side gig.
I know. That's my new domain.
Yelling and making people feel bad about themselves to clean the house.
I could do it. I was like, I have generational trauma. They didn't get it. I could pass it on to them.
There you go.
You want me to be like, oh, let me tell you.
Let me tell you. Okay, let's look at some books. We made people watch 51 minutes
of talk. I'd like to have someone pay me to clean my house, but I don't want to have to yell at them.
Andrew would get joy, I think,
I don't think I would, because you can do a lot of damage with just some looks too. You don't have to like raise your voice all the time.
It's like I don't even have to talk.
You know, like you were telling me you didn't get spanked by your mom. Mm-hmm. She just had to look at you. See, that's effective too. You know, you have to think of your own body mechanics and you don't want to wear out. So there are other methods that you can adopt before going to paddle or belt.
Science has got to do something to get money for those buildings.
I know. I want another building. And so in the meantime, so circle back to what we were talking about an hour ago.
Yeah, what is that?
So we're going to be going to New York Jewelry Week.
Oh, we're there.
Yeah, we're super excited about that. I'm going to have a sale on something.
You better.
And because I was like, oh, I remember why we moved from New York. It's expensive.
I know. We should have kept our apartment.
I know.
It'd been cheaper to keep our apartment sometimes, I think.
I know. Oh, well, hindsight.
Right.
And then it's like all trendy now. I was like, that neighborhood used to be kind of sketchy. Yeah. So, and now it's like all trendy.
But it was like the cultural hub right there. You go a block, you're in the Jewish neighborhood. You go another block, you're in Mexican. You go another block, you're like Middle Eastern. It was nice.
Chinatown.
It had all the foods. It was pretty nice. No wonder
you had to be careful though, because sometimes they probably don't live there, William.
No one lives there now. It's all stores and probably
they got kicked out.
They did get kicked out probably.
But you would order stuff and you had to be careful, like look at a map when you ordered it, because like there would be like Mexican restaurant in Chinatown and you get some unusual combination station and be like, I've never had a burrito with wonton wrappers before. And this is kind of gross. Like there was one time we ordered something, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, ooh, we cannot go here again because this is too different. They got drunk or something and they mix and match too hard.
Helen's with us. Hello, Helen.
Howdy.
Good to see you here again. You tune in just for the actual presentation.
Maybe. And then, so after that, we're going to be going to the ECU conference.
Which is what? ECU is what?
Eastern Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. And it's called the Material Topics Symposium. And we're going to be going to that in January.
We'll be learning some stuff. It's
yeah,
also the same time as the GBE.
I haven't told them that.
So we got to figure that out.
So we'll be like, hey, Kelly, you want to switch?
Who wants to switch? We need a new time slot.
Mm-hmm.
Just this time only.
One time only, then we go back. But the thing is because we have a thing, like a presentation that morning, and I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to skip you. I actually know who's giving the talk, so I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to skip out on your talk.
Yeah, no.
And then...
All right, let's look at some stuff. I'm going to flip the camera around. I'm going to make Andrew talk about other stuff.
Marianne's talking about fusions.
Some fusions aren't meant to be. Oh, no, what'd I just do?
Just X out.
Okay, I hit the wrong setting. I didn't even know that was there. That's convenient.
Is
I
it?
probably should look at some of these settings sometimes. Okay, here you are.
So when I said that some of them books is big, I wasn't playing. And so I buy a lot of books. I'm not super concerned if the books are um
Brand new,
brand
in the
new.
best of shape.
I know William, he is kind of creeped out when I'm like, look at this book that I pulled up from the graveyard of books. But he's like, does it have lice?
I'd never
And
asked that question, everybody.
mhm. So this is a really good book because it's very comprehensive.
It looks comprehensive. It better be
And
comprehensive.
this, I got turned on to this book from a teacher named Sharon Massey, and she runs the jewelry department at Indiana IUP.
Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
That one. And so this is their textbook.
If you got this book and somebody said, this is just the basics, the
You
surface,
start crying.
you would start crying.
I mean, it is, but it's really detailed. So I've only gotten like they talking about
Chapter
how
2.
they'd be talking about like how it feels nice to make jewelry.
Talking
No.
about their feelings.
But I think this is a good book. It's a little dated, but it is super comprehensive. And the other thing that I like about this book, and I'm going to try to find it, is there is a cheat sheet on
Is it a table? I just saw a table.
there. That's not the right one. That's Gravers. But I do want all of these, by the way. This one particularly, number 12. Put that in your mind. But anyways, so there is this table somewhere in here that's super comprehensive, and so you don't have to memorize any of the formulas. And because it's been too long since I've done math in school and stuff, and somebody's like, "Oh, I do calculus for fun." I don't, so I don't remember any of that. So they've got all the like the geometries of how to set stone. And here we go. If you know what this means, this AB equals diameter and C equals center equals this equals that. I can't remember that. So that's written down in here and I don't have to remember it. So that in itself is useful. I'm sure that on Google, you could probably find it a lot faster, but at least it's all kind of there.
Bonnie says there's a favorite bookstore I go to in Red Wing, Minnesota, where they have tons of cool books like this.
Yeah, this is definitely like a textbook for a school, and it's not cheap, by the way. I had to find the most busted copy,
obviously from a public library,
that was de-acquisition from a library, so that I could afford it. But it was like $80, and so I was like, and so I waited until it was on sale, and then I got
80 instead of like 400.
Well, I got it for like 35, but that's because I bargain shop the heck out of that one. You know how they do? Sometimes they get that buy 3, get 20% off.
They do sometimes do that.
All right, so that's the first one. This one was introduced to me by Sharon Massey. So if it's terrible, I'm going to blame her. But just the sheer weight of it, I can press flowers with it or something.
It's still useful.
Still useful in its own unique and beautiful way. One of the next books that I got was Ethnic Jewelry. And one of the things that I find interesting about ethnic jewelry is that generally speaking, a lot of, and I hope that there are no nudie pictures of children in these books, but so a lot of the reasons why I like the ethnic jewelry is because we get to learn some of the cultural significances of where things are from, what they mean, so that when we sell things, we can tell people about what they're buying. And it's not like, oh, that's just pretty, you know? So for me, it's really interesting to get that kind of ethnographic, anthropological kind of lens on things. The other thing that I really appreciate about a lot of ethnic jewelry is that the studios that they create in are generally not like super uh, scientific. If you go to some jewelers in in Europe or in the US, they have like microscopes and lasers and all that, and that's super cool. And one day I aspire to have all of those things. However, in like Africa, they have like a hammer made out of a shoe and some other a mold made out of cow dung. So it's one of those things where it's kind of inspiring to see that of what can be produced with very little. So I appreciate that. All right. So there's this one. Oh, let me readjust this real quick. And they're like, why am I looking at the blank page? We had to do a swap. But look how cool those beads look. I know some of these beads were Raksha beads. Another Bonnie says, love that book. Facebook user says, I think that's why I like ethnographic beads so much. It feels more like they have stories. I like everything, but I definitely think that it is interesting to when you start to see like all of those stories and like I love learning about the significance and emotional weight of things, and it's just so fascinating to me. This is an older book, so there are kind of, you have to read it with a grain of salt. Um, you know, it doesn't, they don't, some of the books don't always hold up with some of the more modern interpretations of what's acceptable nowadays. But this one's not too bad, but there have been ones that I've been like, ooh, that's not good. All right, so this is one of them. Another of the new ones is this one called Primitive and Folk Jewelry. It's all black and white pictures, so that's not my favorite. But again, it's a really lovely way of seeing some of the intricate work that has been produced. It's really inspiring to me because I derive a lot of inspiration off of old jewelry. There are things that I think are very classic and hold up. Um, there are things that I feel like are timeless, and since they're timeless, they kind of they don't lose their impact. Some things I see it's like super popular for like 5 seconds, and you're like, oh, that's super cool, that's super pretty, I like it a lot, and then you wait 5 minutes, and then you're like, oh, never mind. Barnaby is telling you about his feelings about this topic.
Yeah. Barn.
He's gonna tell you.
What do you think about art, Barnaby? Yeah. He's a very good talker.
Yeah. This morning we were getting up to get ready for the day, and he says, hurry up, get up.
So get up.
Get up. He learned that from Babette.
Get up.
She used to do that. She'd start the day. You didn't wake up, she'd start touching your face.
Touch my lips.
Tell
me it's time to eat.
So this one is called Contemporary Jewelry, and I learned about this one at Contemporary Craft, and it is another one that's a little bit outdated. However, the techniques that go into the fabrication techniques are still useful and timeless. So like if you're making a ring shank, this is how you would do it, and it really hasn't changed significantly. I mean, they have a ring-shaped bender or ring shank bender now, but sometimes just learning the basics are really useful. So I really enjoy this one, and this one is a piece by Lalique, and I really like Art Nouveau jewelry, which you'll see coming up shortly. And
He
this
has a
one,
lot of books
I
about it.
love this piece. This piece is, um, they said that this is the, I thought this was different, but maybe I done forgot. But they said it's the Queen from Ur, the headdress from the Queen of Ur. So I thought it was a Hellenistic piece that was, but maybe I'm wrong. Oh, look, what this is from 1974 with love from Patsy something. I hope that's not like bloodstains. Oh, wow. If it is, it comes out, I guess. So one of my favorites that I like is I love the 500 series from Lark. Unfortunately, Lark is no longer in business, but for a long time they were based out of Asheville, North Carolina. And so you used to be able to visit and go through their reading room and look through their books. And I love their books because they are so visually enticing.
Somebody's asking about, have you been reading? Somebody's asking, what's the title of that book?
Which book?
I don't know. Susan's asking, what's the title of this book?
This book is called Contemporary Jewelry, a Studio Handbook by Philip Morton. This one is called Primitive and Folk Jewelry, edited by Martin Gerlach. This one is called Ethnic Jewelry. And who's this by? This one didn't have a dust jacket, so edited by John Mack. And the other one, the big, is Jewelry Concepts and Technology.
Okay. Did we miss any other comments?
Mm,
Facebook, I think that's why I like ethnographic beads so much.
I already said
You
that
said
one.
that one? Okay, so we're caught up to there. Like the cat talk. Love the cat talk. Still so many tools I need. Reminds me of my mom's art books. Always loved the pictures.
Me too. I love them.
That's the second book, red cover.
So this one is all kinds of contemporary things. So there are things that are traditional media, and then there are things that are a wee bit more avant-garde. So you have some pretty out there designs. And I know that some people are like, oh, I hate that. But the thing that I think is inspiring about that is maybe you're not going to do something like this per se, where you're weaving ivory beads with nylon swing tags. But,
Cool.
I think it's one of those things where it's interesting because there's a dialogue between intrinsic material value and what your artistic and creative input actually gives weight and value to a piece. So you can take a piece of paper and make jewelry with it. But if as long as you make something that is interesting and has a concept to it and an idea, and then you can really elevate that medium, and it doesn't become like you have to have all of the value in just like gold or diamonds.
Yeah, like who knew? Little
Yeah,
tags.
and the cool thing is that if you didn't know what that was, and you probably can't see that because there's a glare, I realize. If you didn't know what that is, you wouldn't know until you looked closer. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Michelle says you can get great ideas from your 500 book.
Correct.
He has many of the 500 books.
I have many of them, and I've already been through this one. And it's cool to see who's still making stuff and how their work has evolved. Unfortunately, some of the people who have contributed to this book are no longer making jewelry, but some of them are. And it's interesting to see how they took ideas, maybe in here. Like I was on a Zoom call with Billie Jean the other day.
That looked like a car part to me. That's why I was looking, like a filter, like a air
A
filter,
carburetor.
or a oil filter. That little mesh. That's
It
kind of
kind of
cool.
looks like that.
Yeah,
And I
even
think
with the
that
diaphragm and all.
that maybe it is. No,
No.
maybe they may have seen it and liked it.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. With bracelets, it's super tricky. I find because the fit can be very challenging. So I don't tend to make that many bracelets. So this is kind of a nice way to kind of get, glean some ideas. You can see that I bought this at Half Price Books for $12.50.
Not our local one.
No, I did
That
not.
was an invoice.
All right. So the next book,
Next
up is called Metalsmithing for the Artist Craftsman. And I lost my place. That's okay. So this one, the person who wrote this book used to teach at this place called Cranbrook.
Richard Thomas.
And Cranbrook is they're unusual in the sense that you can go to school there and you can never graduate. Like you can just keep going as long as you want. And that is kind of an interesting concept. But they specialize in crafts, and they actually have a museum, and I haven't seen it in person, but I've read about it, dedicated to steaks. And I'm not talking about like moo cow steaks, but like metal steaks. And so there are things like this, which you hook into either a stump or an anvil or a holder, and use that for raising. So I'm really, one of the things that I'm kind of interested in is raising vessels. And I took a class with Glenn Gardner at Touchstone on Japanese raising. And their technique is very different in the sense that the person who's working on this is working where the apparatus is coming this way. When you're working in the Japanese style, you actually sit on a stump and these fit into the stump. And so you're working kind of basic, it's very immediate. Where this one is a little bit removed, I feel like it's away from you. Where with Japanese raising, it's very close, it's closer to you. There's a wonderful book that is on Japanese raising that I want, but it's only available in Japan, and the shipping is ridiculous. So I almost want to get a plane ticket just so I can go over there.
Don't we know somebody over there?
We do, but you know what? They're going to be like, the shipping's too expensive. And I just feel like it's like $8 on Amazon in Japan. But then the shipping is like $400. So I was like, just go. And maybe Jamie's supposed to go to Japan. I'd be like, Jamie, get me this book. I can't read it, but the pictures. So basically, this book is mostly on raising. So it shows you how to planish, which is basically smoothing out a piece to a mirror finish with a hammer.
And was it raising you did as a demo one Tuesday too? Did you do a raising demo?
Maybe. I did a sinking one. We made a little copper bowl.
Yeah.
In theory, I have the bowl somewhere.
I'll try and link it because I've been trying to put links into our YouTube to cross-reference other YouTube videos since we're trying to do more on YouTube. So if there's a link to it, I'll put it in later.
Yeah. Susan says Half Price Books is a great resource for books. They are, but one of the things I found is that sometimes it's not half. And
they don't stick to their name.
I went over to one. I thought I was gonna get a good deal on this one book, and then they were like $85.95. I was like, "Do what? I thought it's supposed to be half." And then they were like, "No,
not these days." Probably started out that way.
So,
that's just a name now.
I kind of search everywhere, and it's because I buy a lot of books, so I kind of try to get the best deal that I can. I know that's bad. I also try to support smaller shops, so if I can find it, and I have to pay a little bit more, then that's okay. But um, you know. All right, so that's this one, metalsmithing for the artist craftsman. And this is, like I said, mostly for raising. So if you're trying to make a bowl or a vase or whatever from a flat sheet of copper, then or whatever material, then this is probably going to be for you. Actually, the other besides raising, the amount of technical information is like maybe a quarter of the book because the last part is like a gallery. So this is all their metalsmithing is raising, and then this is the other metalsmithing techniques, and then this is the gallery and glossary and appendix. So if you're looking for a super comprehensive book on all the different techniques, you probably don't have to get that big jumbo mamba one. Because this one is mostly specializing in raising.
But probably mostly more in depth.
It is like that's like a lot of info on how to make a bowl. Now there's this book. This is a newer book that I got, and this is I have to say I was a little bit surprised about this one because I thought it was more about stone setting, and there has a lot of information on stones, which I guess is good. But they go through like the history of set jewelry and design inspiration and outsourcing, and then they go through all the stones and what they mean and where they're from and their hardness. And I think that that's good information to have, particularly with some stone settings you wouldn't want to do on super soft stones. So you wouldn't be hammering things or using heat. For example, if you have an opal, because you would smash that into powder. So this is a pretty good book because it's visually pleasing.
Yeah.
It's really enjoyable to look at, I find. Like some of the older books, the pictures are kind of not, whatever. It is what it is. One thing I will say is that and this is pretty comprehensive with different techniques because this is doing things in wax and setting with burrs and basic bezel setting and different things. I also find it super fascinating learning from different people and how they do things. And the reason why I think that's fascinating is because sometimes not everybody does it the same way. And some things don't always fit, meaning that like you could have have a bunch of people in the same room and they all do things 10 different ways, and you kind of have to find this thing that's going to fit for you. Like for one thing, as I wire up, I taught myself how to wire up. So I didn't learn from a book, I learned from magazine, I learned from having a wire and my pliers in my hands and doing it so many times until I learned how it worked best for me. And it is apparently very different and wrong from everything else. So
you've taught some people who like it your way.
I know I have. Their minds must work like mine because they're like, but I try to do the other way, and I'm like, I don't know what y'all talking about cigar roll. I don't roll cigars. I don't know what you think I'm doing on the street corner rolling blunts. But I'm not, so I don't understand this. So, anyways, so I think it's super fascinating to learn different ways of doing things because it can be useful to better your own method of doing what is best and most comfortable for you. And I kind of feel like that was classes too. Before I didn't really take classes. It wasn't until was it 2021
Yeah.
that I started taking classes, and then I started taking all the classes.
Exploration is good if you can.
Yeah, and so I feel like it's a good thing for us that we were able to find new things, and I definitely feel like it enriched me in ways that I can't even describe.
Oh, it set you off on your crafts.
My more contemporary crafts
Crafts
and
target.
yeah, I mean like before when I was in New York, I was not really making any traction as a fine artist. It's such a saturated field, and at the time, it was a very, they didn't have Instagram when I was in college, so if you had to like know somebody who knew somebody, and then do shady things to that person, so that they maybe look at your portfolio. Um, and so I felt it was really hard to like break into the gallery scene. Um, but then so like DIY craft world was way more welcoming and accepting. I mean, we all have our squabbles and our feuds and who does this and that, and there's no shortage of that. But at the same time, we were able to I was able to grow into kind of a career and then branch out into it. And now I'm going to be showing in New York. So look at them
Look at them
apples.
apples. Leave New York to be able to show there.
I know. Yeah, it's because I was too busy working trying to live.
Right.
So this is a pretty good book. I like it. I'm excited to dig more into this and get more. I got another book. I took a class with Everett Hoffman, who his big thing is stone setting. He does a lot of tab setting and a lot of prong setting. And there's another book, but I already brought it to the cottage. So
We're getting spam.
oh.
And I accidentally posted it on the thing too.
Oh,
Ignore
did
that,
you?
everybody.
Oops. Don't look at it.
Gotta look at those comments once in a while.
I know. I was just getting on a roll.
I don't know where we left off.
A
little bit further up. There's Amanda joining us.
Howdy.
There are people who make lots of money selling American stuff
To the Japanese. Well,
yeah.
you know what? It's vice versa.
Yeah, those jeans, that used to be a big thing, selling American jeans in Japan.
And now we get jeans from Japan.
Right.
I
would love to learn how to do that stone setting.
I do basic stone setting, and I would like to get more in depth into it.
Susan says, please show the cover again. I learn better from YouTube demos. Oops, there we are. Different styles of teaching and different styles of learning. Exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like it's one of those things that you kind of have to get an amalgamation of different ideas and come up with your own way.
Right.
The next book, you're like, how many books you got? A lot.
You got a whole pile of new ones.
These are not new. These are probably the past couple months.
so new.
So I got
the old ones.
Anyways, so there's this book. It's mostly just picture book, but I still like it. I like Lalique. One of the things that I really enjoy about Lalique is that he was not afraid to experiment with materials. So sometimes people be like, "Oh, Lalique," and then they don't realize that some of it's like made of plastic. And he did a lot of things where he would experiment with new materials and do things like that. And I think that that's so important, to be able to explore new materials and find a new way. I think especially because there's a symposium happening, I think next week, on sustainable resources in jewelry.
Where's that?
Chicago.
I'm surprised you're not
Um,
going.
I almost went, but then I looked up what I had to do, and I realized that I would not be able to do everything that I needed to do if I went to all these trips.
Susan says, I love Lily.
And so yeah. But anyway, so there are things like when we talk about sustainable resources within the jewelry world, it's tricky. Like ethics in the jewelry world are sometimes problematic, to put it lightly. And what I mean by that is that sometimes um, things are from certain parts of the world where labor is very cheap, and they create conditions that are often harmful to those people. So whenever we try to buy from reputable sources who have actually been to the mines and know the people who are getting things. Sometimes that's not always possible, or they're working with old stock. So it's a fine line between like price for one, because generally speaking, whenever you get ethically sustainable things, or what they have that label, generally speaking, they're like quadruple the price of or more of regular resources. So I do think it's important to try to know where things come from. It's kind of like food. Like if you buy like a bag of carrots, it's nice to be able to know that they're from a farmer, and that the farmer is not using harsh pesticides and things like that. It's not always possible. We live in rural southwestern Pennsylvania, which you'd think that that would be like the mecca of fresh fruits and veggies, since it's pretty agrarian still. But sometimes you just can't get access to it. So, we understand that and try to strike a healthy balance between what we know and don't know. Anyways, so this is pretty much a picture book, but I still like it. Like this one, or was it the stars? I'm into it.
That's
In the
nice.
night, dans la nuit. Is that what that
Huh?
means?
Dans la nuit?
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
night.
dans la nuit, in the night.
Boy, that high school French just popped up.
Right up.
It just told it. I will say that this book smells funky, so it might have to go into quarantine. They must have been a smoker or something. Anyways, I'm not gonna sniff too hard. So I'm gonna skip to this one. Now, speaking of Lalique and some of the Art Nouveau jewelers, this is one. Marianne says 2 months is new. Don't rain on my parade, Marianne. I need a constant stream every day. Every day.
Oh my.
It's
Every
not
day.
been. It's not been. We gotta save up for the laser, so I've cut back my book budget, y'all. I've been crying and shivering and thinking about how I can get some more books. I was like, "It's my birthday," and he was like, "That was like last month."
I got books for
And
your birthday too.
I know that's how I got them. And I was like, "Oh, if you love me, our anniversary is coming up next month." I know. I'm like that Dave. What's his name? Dave Chappelle. When he's all like shivering, it's a little bit like that. I even have a beanie that makes it look similar. Anyways, um, so Bonnie says in the art world in general, I think that she's talking about my time in New York, having a hard time breaking into that. And Shorter says, I love picture books. I'm a fan of museum show catalogs. Me too. That's one thing that I loved about the Strand, is that sometimes they would get museum catalogs, and they would be so cheap. And then you would wait like 5 months when they're all sold out, and they'd be like hundreds of dollars. So I don't want to brag or anything. Probably they're all ruined by mice at this point. But I have some books that I looked up on the internet and I almost got knocked over with a feather because when I bought them, they were like 20 bucks. And I mean, I had to like clean up puke and wait on tables all day and night. But I saved up my money and I went to that bookstore and I got some $20 books. And now they're several $100s. And I was like, what? So, Marianne says, I would love to buy a book every day too. I think that would be fun. That's like a challenge. Let's make that challenge. Everyday book challenge.
Oh, I get into that too?
No, because you don't read your books. I actually read my books.
You don't have to read them to get them. It's still fun to get them.
I don't know if that's a part of this
challenge. Still fun to get them.
Hey, I'll make a list and you can pick from that list every day. You can.
Barnaby, I don't think that's fair either.
Barnaby says no, and I was like, mind your business, Barnaby. Mind your business. I got deals to make here.
Who feeds me?
By the good graces of both of your flesh daddies.
Oh my goodness.
Getting wild,
William. Getting wild over there.
Cynthia says, love those opals. Me too.
What opals?
The cover, William. the cover. Let's take a look, y'all. Let's just enjoy this real quick. So they're like, wow, this goes real quick. But no, this is a lovely book. It is on the pricier side, but I found it on sale. It's called The Master Jewelers, and it's all Art Nouveau jewelry. So I love this, like this little bee up here and the flowers. It's a belt buckle design of hornets. I don't think that's what that is. That looks like a honeybee to me. Are you even able to see that? No. Here. And then, so this, I love how they're doing some of the enamels. Oh my gosh, look at this one. Who made that? I love that. I'm getting transfixed. Oh my gosh, this one's like a gourd. But this one, this is a comb, and it's basic. Oh, that's tortoiseshell. Never mind. There was one that they had this weird name for plastic, and I had to look it up, and I was like, what the heck is that? But I can't remember what it was, unfortunately. There is one, it's called, is it Galalite? Galacalite, and it's made of milk. And I was like, what? But they would mix the powdered casing from milk with a binder and make a material out of that. And I was like, that is so trippy. Anyway, so this is one of the new ones. I've only seen this in reproductions. There was a show that came through and it was called something, The Radical Victorians. And it was all a show of Pre-Raphaelite art and Art Nouveau. And I was seeing pictures on Instagram from people who are local, who are artists. And they're like, oh, so cool to see this picture in person. And I thought they were in England. I thought that they must have chartered a bus plane and took that to England. And all the Pittsburgh artist people were in England at the Albert and Victoria Museum looking at these works of art. And then I realized it was at the Frick down the street. I got so mad because they posted it on the last day and I didn't get to go. And now the place that they're showing is in Puerto Rico, which I probably will not be going to. So anyways, this is a good one. I think of this as like eye candy for me. Because some of the mastery of skill that goes into this is like way far beyond my capabilities. Like Fabergé, I'm not making Fabergé eggs. My enameling is nothing like this kind of enameling. They got the Plica Jour and Cloisonné, and let's just say mine is rough and ready compared. And I don't think that's a bad thing because I'm still learning and growing, and this is not necessarily my style. But I do think there are things that can be gleaned from this. For instance, like this is a beautiful piece that is based off of the laurel branches that would be awarded to the winners of Olympian Games. And so people think they're olive, but it's actually laurel branches that's based off of the myth of Daphne and Apollo. Y'all didn't know that, did you? Maybe you did. Um, but anyways, so thinking about things like that is that it's a lightweight construction of metal and done in a way that's folded, maybe it's cast, and then constructed in a way that you can get those kind of botanical references. And I think that, maybe you'll see something coming up pretty soon that has something like that. Not directly copy, but definitely. But look at this, y'all. Come on. Is this like Limoges and Cloisonne and let's see. I could read this. Opposite details of the enamel allegories. Oh,
Oh.
allegory representing discord, sensual delight, work, and love. So I guess this is discord. This sensual delight. She looking pleased with herself. This is work, and this is love. This is they're like the same but different. Look, they bring the same outfits. This one, she going a little bit, got a little bit free with that, but whatever. So this is one of those things where I love to look at these books, just like I like to look at the ethnographic books, because they can be such a wealth of inspiration. Especially when you start to look at kind of classical elements. Like with this, it's got this really cool effect where they're using, I'm guessing, cloisonne beads in between, but they're in this kind of crazy candy cane swirl, like a barber pole, and it has this weird optical illusion that undulates your eye around the piece and is picked up by the rhythm of these diamonds. I'm sure that's not CZ. And it's got this kind of weird, trippy effect. And it's not like the most, I wouldn't call this the most like crazy, over the top silhouette or design. But it's interesting that they're using these different elements and pulling them together to push the eye around the piece. And I could definitely see somebody wearing, their hair up and having their collarbone exposed and having those diamonds like on showcase. And of course, so I don't know where you hang this. Maybe in like a clip in your bosom. I don't know how you say that, but anyways, so there you go. That's I think there's something to learn from everything. So this is a very beautiful book. I enjoyed looking at it so far. While I was in Providence, Rhode Island, one of the people who won one of the Lifetime Achievement Awards is Jamie Bennett. And Jamie Bennett is, I don't know if he's still teaching at SUNY New Paltz in New York, but the SUNY New Paltz school is very well known for their metal arts, and he teaches enameling. And so he was the teacher of one of my teachers, Tanya Crane. And so it's interesting to see how that kind of transitioned. One of the cool things about his work is that they're kind of these little delicious slices of things like textiles. Like I could see this being a textile, you know, or like a close up of something like a little jewel or a zoom in of a Persian rug. So there's these sumptuous colors and these patterns, which are then kind of put into this enameled, but they're not like super shiny and glossy like a lot of enamels, which I think is interesting. There's a little bit of a matteness, so you get kind of past that candy coating and you start looking at more of the you look at more of the shape and the color and the texture and the pattern. They're very painterly. And I don't know if it's because he's under firing them and doing um like a orange peel, or if he's acid etching them on top. I'm gonna be like, yo, Tanya, how he make this? No, but some of it you can tell. Like with this one, you can tell this is a sugar fire, which is where they do a full fuse underneath and then they sprinkle an enamel on top, but they only just barely kiss it with the heat, and so it has that rough kind of sandpapery texture to it. If you go a little bit further, it becomes orange peel, where it starts to stick to itself and it creates these dimples. And then if you go further, it becomes fully fused. And then if you go past that, then it's overfired, where it starts to pull away and darken and do different things like that. So, anyways, this is a very beautiful book. I I love this flavor, y'all. We drop, people like I'm gonna look at something else. But oh well, I'm having fun.
Right.
So this is a fun book. I will say that this book it has a very specific look. And if you're not, I mean, you can maybe adapt some of the ideas, but it is, I don't know how I don't know. She has a very distinct style, and she wrote a couple of other books, and they were produced by Lark, so they're very beautifully produced books. Um, and I think it's like wire, woe, weave, heat, something. Um, and I thought they had told you which one. Oh, here it is. Wrap, stitch, fold, and rivet, and fabulous woven jewelry. And I feel like this one is not as good as the other ones, but I still like it. There's stuff. There's a lot of metal clay, and metal clay done in a very organic style. So if you like things that are more organic or have play with like happenstance, like this is embedding another kind of metal into the precious metal clay. Um, and so you get kind of unexpected results from that. I don't actually know how this is attached, because if I tried to attach this with the tab setting with 24 gauge copper wire, that would just fall right out. But maybe they're stitching
Maybe
it
if you
on.
read it.
I know. And skip into the end. Now I see it's not folded over, they're wrapping it. So that's how that's done. But I can see the value in it, and I am excited to kind of adapt some of these ideas to my own style. But it is not necessarily my aesthetic, you know? And I don't think that's a bad thing. Sometimes people are like, oh, I can't look at that because it's on modern art. And it's like you can look at anything and get ideas or inspiration. I find it fascinating to look at somebody else's studio. And some of these are really close to looking at somebody's studio, because you see what materials they're using, what tools they have, um, and seeing kind of also what they're doing with what they have. If you go and you look at her Instagram, it's not any jewelry at all now. It's all kind of artfully arranged leaves and things, which I think is really beautiful. So if you get a chance, go check it out. It's Mary Hetzenmenberger, that one. I know her, but I can't say her last name.
Hedmansberger.
So, anyways, that's the end of the pile.
That's it.
William, show them your enamel.
My enamel.
Here, I'll drop the camera down.
Now that you've seen all the good enamel, here's mine.
I think that's good.
I did this.
Bonnie says, I did some modern polymer pieces like those. There's a really lovely book if you're into that. It's called Ancient Modern, and it's by Brana S last name. And she does stuff that's kind of like that. Oh, I thought this was family friendly. Oh no.
Barnaby is the boss.
And then Bonnie says, love that dragonfly lady. And says, I have a necklace made of the beads of that milk stuff. I'm afraid to wear it. It should be stable. But you wouldn't want to like sweat on it or anything. And then Susan says, I like William's work. And then Leah says, I like that piece. Michelle says, very good, William. So our friend Jenny
Di Benedito.
That like that.
Di Benedito.
She came over and we hung out, and she was showing William mostly some stenciling and some silk screening. And so now we're on fire to get a Cricut.
Yeah, because I can make, with a Cricut, we found out that we can make silk screens, and you can use silk screens in pottery and in enameling, which are the two things that I'm interested in, apparently. So...
And if he doesn't use it, then I'll use it. Right. So it's not the end of the world.
So we might be getting a Cricut.
So there's a lot of people saying...
My sister-in-law has a Cricut.
Oh.
She has the mug maker. She has everything, apparently, my mom said.
And William's jealous.
I know. She's got everything.
Anything you can do, I can do.
I don't even have one.
Not even one.
Not even one.
Not even the basic airport one. And all these people talking about how they like your work.
Oh, good. Thank you, everybody.
And Marion says, colors are my jam. You know what's funny is I have a bag that looks exactly like this. Our friend Donna Huang, she taught me some ways of cutting in line in Chinese by saying you have
diarrhea, of course, poop talk.
Of course. So I said, how do I get in the front of the line?
From a long time ago.
And she says, well, you could say you have loose stool, and apparently it's Olan C, if you need to know that. I'm probably saying it wrong. But anyway, so I used to love going to the Hawaii show because it's a big gift giving culture. And so I had to get a separate suitcase for all of my presents, and I felt like a king of happiness.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so she gave me this bag that she made, and it was red and black and yellow and white.
And then I made this without even thinking about it.
Amanda says, Cricut is taking over the universe. Well, I'm not opposed. The thing is that I get nervous because sometimes I buy stuff and then I never open it. As you heard the iPad story maybe earlier, but I actually opened the iPad. But I bought this thing called the You-Do. It is hermetically sealed. The paints inside have probably become a dry crust. And I got a GoCo printer, and that's from the 80s, y'all. And it's not been opened.
So what's the difference between the You-Do and the GoCo?
I think one has more technology. I'll show you the one. It's small. The other one is ginormous.
Is it still here?
The You-Do is ginormous. I'm not showing that.
Are they both still here?
Maybe.
Hidden in the closet. One moment, please.
One moment, please. Talking about Japan.
Imported. Look at that.
You're like, what am I looking at? What am I looking at? William was like, well, also, what am I looking at?
A screen printer?
Whoa. You don't even know what that says, do you?
I don't. And I used to speak some Japanese. I didn't get that good, though. Perfectly packaged. Never been open. I wonder how good those batteries are. Yeah, wonder if we're supposed to be exposing that.
Well, they put it on top.
They put it on top.
So in theory, if somebody wants to learn how to use this, then they can come over and show me how to use this. There's
It
like
doesn't help that every instruction is in Japanese too.
this is English.
Oh, there. Okay.
They made an English manual.
Print Goko ink blocking.
Our friend Kimmy, she used to use these.
These are the inks.
I wonder if they're still
And these
good.
batteries. Look at these batteries in here.
They don't look corroded.
Japanese batteries. I don't know.
So it's kind of like this is like an
Goko lamp.
archaeological dig.
Contains 10 bulbs. I know, right? I didn't know what we had. Is this for screen printing? Is that its purpose?
Yeah.
Hmm.
He's like, cricket sounds better. So there's this one. There's another package of inks that has never been opened.
You got really into it at first.
I know, and these things aren't cheap either. And I was like, how did I have money for this when I was poor? And then I was like, here you go. I could put it back on eBay.
You might make lots of money
nowadays. I know.
Vintage.
They'd be like, this ink is dried out. And be like, well, it's from the 80s, y'all. And that apparently is the ancient time. If you watch that show on Amazon,
all those teen shows,
they said that the 90s was a long time ago. I was like, shut your nasty mouth. And they're like, oh.
It was 30 years ago.
I don't care. It was not that long ago. And they make it sound like it's ancient. That's like that little girl who came in the store and she's like, oh, who is this? I said, Fiona Apple. And then she's like, oh, this is cool. I was like, yeah, she had a big hit in 1998. And she's like, oh, I listen to oldies too. I was like, that's not oldie.
It's like when we were growing up and we said, oh, the 60s and 70s.
I remember we used to listen to Cool 105.9 with my parents, and they didn't have Fiona Apple on the oldies. I remember they played Party Like a, what's that one? 1999.
Oh.
When 2000 hit and they played that on the oldies channel. As a joke. 80s, right? As a joke. Now it's Alanis Morissette on the easy listening, and I was like,
that was our music.
This not right.
That was our time.
I felt myself wither in front of the children. And like the Crypt Keeper. I was like, did you know what Crypt Keeper is?
No, they don't.
They're like, is that something like a trapper keeper? No. Do you know who Lisa Frank is? No.
Don't know
oh wow.
Lisa Frank tried to make a comeback.
There's a warehouse that's empty.
Oh yeah.
And it's like it's all like rainbows and stuff. And you can like go inside. All right. Anyways, y'all gonna get bored. There's only like 5 of you watching, anyways. Not on classic radio either. You know what though? They'd be talking that one song where she'd be doing stuff in the movie theater, and they played that on the easy listening. And I'm like, is anybody else confused what's going on in here? Because that is not, I don't know. I don't know. I grew up watching Lawrence Welk as a child, so it's different than Alanis Morissette having the times in the movie theater. A little bit different.
It's probably just as
provocative.
Not provocative as Lawrence Welk was to us. To
oh,
the
really?
Kids nowadays.
Oh, we watched this one show. I was like, I had to go and Google stuff that they were talking about. I was like, I don't know what that means. I was like, I thought I was.
The show, even the girl in it didn't know what it meant.
I know. She had to use the Google.
The Google.
And the Google told her, and she was young. In high school, but maybe they wrote that in the script so that the elderly people watching would feel like a kin.
Right.
They wouldn't feel left out because they didn't know what that was.
I know.
But anyways.
Anyway.
So we say goodbye.
We're saying goodbye.
All right, bye.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
Thank you for
Thank
watching.
you.
Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, maybe we'll do more things like this.
Or
Inspiration
not.
Station.
Do you like it or you hate it?
Inspiration Station.
If you like it, we'll do more. If you are tired of me talking about books for 10 hours, then I won't do it. Because if there's only like 5 of you watching, so
13. It went up.
oh wow, who is
Somebody
it?
joined in.
Who is it?
Probably just because other people are live too.
I know.
We can't be
It's
the
Friday
only
night.
people.
I know Kay's probably like,
as much as we'd like you to all just watch only us.
No, I don't watch just us. All right, bye.
Bye. See ya.
See ya. That's my line, William.